Let's welcome in Seth Wickersham, senior writer for ESPN, the magazine. Your report on this is just remarkable, the way you get into every detail of this rebuild, of what they've been through. But so much of what you talk about is about the owner, Jimmy Haslam. What are his primary instincts as an owner, as a manager?
Well, I think that he has that's a very complicated question. I'll try to give you the best answer I can. But I think the people who have worked for him think that the positives of him is that he's very accessible. And he's somebody who solicits opinions from all corners of the building, outside the building, all kinds of coaches. It can also be problematic because there are atypical structures there where he ends up having the GM and the head coach report directly to him. And because so many of these regimes that he's fostered in his ownership have been arranged marriages, he ends up being the tiebreaker, the appeals court. And so because of that, I think that there's always a race to be the last person to talk to him, or that, to stab somebody else in the back. It's hard to have trust there. It's one of the key things that John Dorsey was able to get done when he hired Freddie Kitchens. Freddie Kitchens reports to Dorsey. Now, who knows if how that'll end up playing out, but in theory, that should make them solve problems together and sort of eliminate this appeals court that has really been destructive over the past couple of years.
So how does this impact Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll see.
I mean, even in what you've seen so far, how is it impacting him?
Well, he was involved.
Yeah.
And I think there's two ways to look at the way that it's going to impact him. The first is on the field. Clearly, continuity matters for young quarterbacks. It just does. Look at Alex Smith's career. I mean, the guy had, 5 offensive coordinators in his first 5 years. It matters. So if they can if Freddie Kitchens can coach well and coach Baker Mayfield well, it really bodes well for Mayfield. The other side of that is you've seen organizations like the Washington Redskins and RG3 where the owner falls in love with the quarterback, and that becomes its own problem inside the building. And so those are the two things facing this team, and we'll just kind of see how it plays out.
Your reporting has a lot of very interesting situations that go on behind the scenes at Cleveland. Tell us about them, some of the things that you sort of looked at, found, and said, ooh, this might not be so good for Cleveland.
Well, obviously there was the Hugh Jackson firing, a disconnect over what it was even over. Sashi Brown, their GM of 2 years, was nicknamed Obama by Jimmy Haslam.
Why?
And to be clear, well, he's eloquent and he's handsome and he went to Harvard Law, and Jimmy thought it was funny, and there's other people who thought it was funny too. I don't think he meant to racially stereotype, but there were people who were offended by it.
And I know he said before that in front of the NAACP, the first exposure I ever had to diversity was working in the NFL. Kind of shocking for a guy like Haslam. But that's not the only thing, right?
Well, and I think that then you look at how things happen. I mean, it's I think that people there believe that they have his ear and they have his trust and they're going to be in there for the long run, and then just like that, they are gone. And it's one of the things I tried to show in the story is how people are hired and how they're fired, because I think it's very important to look at that in terms of the grand scheme of things in Cleveland.
So it's almost this, you're doing great, and next thing you know, they're gone. So who does he want to model his franchise, his ownership after?
Well, he was a minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was back when he ran his family company, and he was a brilliant owner of the company. But then there was a huge FBI and IRS raid. It's led to many indictments for fraud. Jimmy has not been connected to it legally. And I think that what you're seeing is that as that business sort of receded, he's taken on more of a managerial role with the Browns. And so is his wife, Dee, the co-owner. And so I don't think they were anticipating that. I think that they were thinking they're going to stay in Knoxville. They'll come up once or twice a week for games. Not quite a vanity purchase, but it's not going to be their primary thing. And then it's become their primary thing.
That's interesting. It's very different once you own all the marbles and you control the direction of the franchise, especially when you're in Cleveland with their history. Seth, thank you so much. Got to check it out, by the way. Clashing in Cleveland on ESPN.com. Amazing report. Thank you.